Okay, so episode 2 or
Yep.
1 or one of the first, somewhere
Yes.
around there.
The
Um,
beginning era.
yes, exactly. We're in our beginning era
Hmm.
um, of Crimelia Street. What's happening this week? What's going on for us? We had Father's Day today. Did you guys do anything to celebrate?
Austin did some disc golf today with the boys, and then
Cool.
Charlotte and I went shopping. Woohoo! Yeah, so we went grocery shopping, and I'm sorry. And I made actually some really good mac and cheese, and we had ribs and a big old
Mmm,
watermelon. So
yummy.
that was pretty much our Father's Day.
Fun.
Yeah. How
Nice.
about you
Sounds good.
guys?
We also went disc golfing, and then we went to a steakhouse. So we thought we would maybe at the beginning of our episode. Sam is a big bevy girl. I'm also a big bevy girly. Um, so we figured maybe at the beginning of the episodes we would go over what we're drinking this week because I think it's gonna be kind of a toss up every week.
Right, right. And
Hmm.
hydration is important, so.
Yes, or dehydration.
Or sometimes dehydration. Sometimes it's necessary. Well, tonight I have a nice crispy DC Diet Coke.
Okay. And that's
I'm
on
a
the
Diet Coke
dehydration
girly.
side, I think, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's some water in there, but yeah, it's
True.
probably not great. But I mean, I do have water in here.
The Stanley
And
Cup.
Austin said I was absolutely insane because I made myself a cup of coffee.
Cup of
So
coffee.
I have
So we
three
got three
options.
bevies on the plate. We can kind of go in
Yeah.
between the three. It's so funny because I almost, after sitting down, I was like, should I make a cup of coffee real quick and bring it here? And I
Right.
was like, girl, don't be crazy. You have to work tomorrow.
Yeah. You'll just be lying in bed like, when have
And
I
just to
done?
be, yeah. And just to be clear, so Sam is on the West Coast and I'm on the East Coast. So it's a bit later my time than Sam's time. So
Yes.
she's drinking coffee at a very much more reasonable hour than
Right.
than it would be for me.
Oh my
So, yeah, but I did think about it.
Right. It almost happened, but
It did, it did. So
Mhm.
I poured myself a glass of red wine.
Nice.
In these fancy little wine glasses we just got, which you can only see if you're watching the camera, but they are made of paper, and I'm considering
Oh,
sending them back because they're glass, but like they feel like they're made of paper. There's so
it can be
little
dangerous.
there's so little glass that is but put into this glass product.
Right.
I feel like I can look at it the wrong way and it's gonna shatter. And then
Yeah,
also, if you're gonna dehydrate, you have to rehydrate. So I've
of
got
course.
me a large cup of water as well.
I love
So
that. That's great. Yeah.
thanks.
Or
Yeah.
actually, don't go too high in pitch because that would
What?
shatter the glass. Don't go too high in.
And there it is. I love that.
Oh,
Okay, so for the sad stuff, to just kind of bop into that,
all right.
um, my case this week is about the Trailside Killer. Have you ever heard of it?
Not too much.
Okay. So the way that I fell into this episode is that I am a Real Housewives of Beverly Hills fan. I was watching it, and you and I were talking about starting a true crime podcast at the time, and Lois Renette like just very briefly kind of went over her experience in the show, and I wrote it down, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna look into this. Little did I fucking know what I was getting. I
Wow.
listened to so much true crime and I've never heard of this one before.
Yeah.
So he had a lot of it. It's a bit of a doozy. Just trigger warning now for like intense violence in some of these cases, and I keep it pretty vague because I just don't want to go like into the super details of stuff, but like some of the stuff you kind of have to talk about just to show how much of a monster this person truly was. But it is a bit of a doozy. We have 8 victims, 6 survivors, then two murder victims that he is suspected as the killer for. So the Trailside Killer's name is David Carpenter. He was born May 6th, 1930, to Frances Elizabeth and Elwood Ashley, and they married in August 1929. From here on out, I'm just going to call him Carpenter to make it easier, and if I'm referring to his parents, I'll call them by their first name.
Okay.
So, as a child and teenager, Carpenter stuttered, he was a bedwetter, and he showed signs of cruelty to animals. So that's like 2 of the 3 of the McDonald triad. So he had 2 of the 3. The 3 signs for the McDonald triad is cruelty to animals, bedwetting, and then obsession with starting fires. And he had the bedwetting and the cruelty to animals. And then he also had a stutter. He had the stutter from when he was young. As a child, he was forced to take ballet and violin lessons as well by his mother, and he was teased by other children for that. Again, this is like so he was born in 1930, so he's probably taking these lessons in the early 1940s or so, I would think. Okay. So you could see why a boy might be teased for being in ballet in the early
for sure
1940s. His mother didn't want him to seek help for his stutter. It was weird because she would like set appointments for it, but then like find these strange ways to bail out of them, or she would like get to the door of the appointment of like walking in and then just turn around when she got to the door. So it was weird. It was almost like she wanted to seek help, but then like wouldn't when the time came. Carpenter wet the bed well into his teens, and he had very few friends even as a teenager. And I'm only mentioning him wetting the bed because of the McDonald triad. I'm not trying to like tease this teenager.
Right. I mean, clearly an issue. Like, it's not
normal. Yeah. Right. So Frances, Carpenter's mom, was known to be abusive towards Carpenter as well, physically abusive. Carpenter ran away from home when he was in 10th grade, and he went to their family cabin. And this next part, it's like a little bit gray. I'm not sure like when he stopped living at the family cabin or if he stayed there until his first institutionalized time frame or what. I'm sorry. It's just part of the wind's working against us tonight.
We will persevere.
Can't stop us.
Nope.
But yeah, I don't know, like, when he ever left his family cabin or what. Like, that just seemed like a strange thing to me, that, like, you just run away to your family. Like, did they, like, know you were there? Did they let you stay there? Like, I don't have those answers, but I do have the questions. His early crimes, at the age of 17, he was sentenced to the California Youth Authority facility for raping 2 cousins or 2 of his cousins, and they're kind of conflicting sources on this, so I don't know if it's 2 of his cousins or 2 cousins. One of the cousins was an 8-year-old little boy, and the other was a 3-year-old girl.
Oh my God.
I know, it's horrific, dude. And he was 17 years old at this time. He was paroled from that facility in December 1948, so he couldn't have spent more than a year there. Or more than a year and a half, I guess. About a year to a year and a half that he spent there. August 5th, 1950, so Carpenter was about 20 now, so about 3 years after that, he attempted sexually assault a 17-year-old girl by giving her a ride to his friend's house and then convincing her to stop by his parents' house to help him clean up before his parents came home, is what he told her. She escaped by locking herself in the bathroom and then crawling out the window. She told her parents, they called the authorities. Carpenter was arrested on the charge of making an assault on a female under the age of 18 with intent of sexual intercourse. He pled not guilty, and October 10th, he was found to be not guilty. Interesting choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clearly not the right one.
Yeah, it gets more and more clear as it goes on. His first attempted murder was in 1960. It was Lois Rinna, who is TV personality star Lisa Rinna's mother. And this was before Lisa Rinna was born. So we may not have had Lisa Rinna if this went in a different direction, which is crazy to think about. So Lois knew Carpenter from work. She worked for an advertising company who worked with the organization that he worked with. While Lois was waiting for the bus to go to work, Carpenter saw her, picked her up, and convinced her to come with him to see his wife and new baby, and says that he'll bring her to work after. Instead of bringing her to his home, he brings her to a military base and drives her down a, not very traveled road. Which, if you're gonna do a crime, something about bringing someone to a military base to do the crime just
things that make you go
it seems reckless almost, but I guess this area just felt really remote, so it felt like a safe place. I don't know. Seems crazy to me. It's
right. And also
to the place with all the military, not just the regular police but the military ones.
Yeah. What was your end game? Did you want to get caught, or was it the thrill of
maybe
doing it somewhere like that? I don't know.
Maybe.
Who knows?
I get the vibe that he literally just thought it was more remote and would be a safer, because later on he goes on to do crimes in national parks and stuff, which are very remote areas. So I'm thinking maybe that was his go-to, but who knows what was going on. So he drives her down remote feeling road. He stops the car, and at this point Lois knows something is up because they're obviously not going to his house. She's already asked him a few times, why are you driving this direction? She, when he stops the car, escapes the car and started running, but he caught up to her and pulled her back into the car. He pulls out a rope and a knife and tells her to be quiet and he won't hurt her. She resisted until he put the knife to her throat, and then she sees him grabbing a claw hammer from under the seat. As she sees that, she sees a car pass by on a nearby road, and she lunges and screams and actually accidentally hits the horn at this point. There was a struggle between Lois and Carpenter, and Lois was able to get out of the car. After she got out of the car, David started attacking her with the hammer, and she screamed again. A military police officer hero, Jewel Wayne Hicks, heard her screams, and he approached the scene. As he's approaching the scene, he looks Carpenter in the eyes. Carpenter looks at him as he continues assaulting Lois, and Carpenter continues to attack Lois until the officer is close enough to physically attack Carpenter, which really just shows the level of monster that this person
deranged.
is. Just absolutely.
That is, that's nightmare fuel right there.
Right.
That dude will always remember seeing that.
And keep in mind, this is the 1960s. This is one of the first victims. Right?
Wow.
Very documented. This guy is office rocker. We all know that. Everyone involved in this scenario.
Should not be in society.
Right. So the officer and Carpenter get into a struggle. Carpenter eventually drops his hammer. As the officer's calling for backup, Carpenter pulls out a fountain pen gas gun.
What is that? How big can that be?
One might ask, what the fuck is a fountain pen gas gun? Well, I've Googled it for you.
Perfect.
It is exactly what it sounds to be. So it was mostly used in like covert operations and such, but it is a gun that appears to be a fountain pen.
Wow, that is terrifying.
But shoots real bullets. Yeah, and most of them were designed to shoot 22, which is like the smallest caliber bullet. But this one shot 38 ammo. So it's a decent sized bullet coming from a fountain pen.
Yeah.
That's insane. I don't know. That's crazy to me. I never heard of such a thing.
Right. It's like, what are you gonna do? Shoot me? And it's like, yeah.
Actually,
Damn.
I have my pen, my handy dandy pen. Like, what?
Wow.
So the slug barely misses the officer, but it did kind of braze his cheek and burned his cheek. The officer opened fire on Carpenter in return and shot Carpenter twice, once in the abdomen and once in the leg. Both Carpenter and Lois needed medical attention, so they put them both in the back of the same cop escort vehicle. And Lois resisted getting into the back seat with Carpenter back there, and they insisted that she did and put her back there with him and drove them to the hospital together. And I feel like that's something you wouldn't see in today's time.
Right.
Like, leave that fucker on the side of the road.
Yeah, like
until another car gets there. Like,
that is
fuck you.
I cannot imagine being like
insisted to get like to be anywhere near that person, let alone in the back of a moving vehicle. Like, you can't just get out of a moving vehicle at any point.
And like, what a range of emotions, because she almost escapes and then he drags her back and then the cop comes and she's like, oh, I'm saved, and now she is like stuck. Oh
my god, right? And then he like had a chance against the cop at one point too, so like, what in her head is saying that she's even safe with the cops, you know?
Yeah. Oh, that poor girl.
For real. Lois's injuries included a fractured skull, which was broken in 2 places, and tendon injuries to her fingers from defensive wounds. She had to undergo immediate brain surgery when she got to the hospital and had 2 plates put in her head. They also did tendon grafts, but they ended up being unsuccessful. So I'm not totally sure what that means for her. I don't know if maybe she didn't have like full motion in 2 of her fingers, or maybe she got it fixed later. I don't know. August 3rd, 1960, when his wounds had healed up enough, Carpenter was booked into San Francisco City Prison and charged with assault and intent to commit murder. During his time at the hospital, Carpenter claimed he didn't remember the attack on Lois.
Convenient.
Yeah. Right. August 25th, 1960, Carpenter's lawyer claimed the psychiatric evaluation that had already been conducted for Carpenter was superficial, and he demanded a second one. October 8th, the lawyer informed the judge that they would plead insanity. So they got a second psychiatric evaluation, and that one decided that Carpenter was competent to stand trial, so they couldn't plead for insanity. He ended up being sentenced on March 9th, 1961 to 14 years total from 3 charges, 5 years for assault with a deadly weapon on Lois with the claw hammer, and then 5 and 4 years respectively for assault with a deadly weapon on Officer Hicks with the claw hammer and then with the gas gun. He was initially also charged with intent to murder Lois, but that was dropped as a plea bargain, so he never actually got charged with that crime, which is upsetting.
Why? Yeah.
Yeah. So he's charged with 14 years for this, like, horrific attack on a woman, which just doesn't feel long enough.
Not at all.
No. Also, by the day of his sentencing, all of a sudden, conveniently, again, his memory had returned to him. And he said that it came back to him while he was watching the movie Psycho. So, just what a freak.
Right. What is going on with this guy?
He, mm.
It's the mother. It's the mother. But also, obviously, it's his responsibility.
The mom and the dad weren't great. This
Right.
guy, though, like, obviously those things didn't help him to be a normal human, but
Hmm.
there's plenty of people who have had very trying circumstances and have also
Aren't,
become
yeah,
normal
rapists and
people.
murderers and yeah.
Yeah. So after he was sentenced, he went to McNeil Island, which is a U.S. penitentiary in Washington. And he went there April 12th, 1961. During his time in the penitentiary, his wife Ellen, who he married before, filed for divorce with the date of the attack, of Lois's attack, which I think was just kind of badass. She was like, this was the day we were divorced.
Yeah.
Um,
The final straw.
yeah. Um, and Ellen got custody of the three children, thank God, and $1 a month for child support. I think it was per child, but I'm not sure. I didn't specify in my notes. And then $1 a month for child support. Oh, sorry. And then $1 a month for alimony. Divorce was granted on the charges of extreme cruelty and wrongfully inflicting upon her grievous mental suffering, meaning upon his wife, Ellen. Um, yeah, and accurate
It must have
and
been
good for
pretty
her.
bad. Can you imagine, like,
Well, I think the
having children with this
suffering,
man?
yeah, the suffering
Ugh,
was like finding out what he had done. And I'm glad she
yeah.
was getting like some kind of financial support too. I don't know like what a dollar comes out to back in 1961, but I'm glad that even though he was like probably not making a lot of money and stuff, he still was required to send her something.
Yeah, that's good.
Divorce was granted October 27th, 1960. Also, while he was at McNeil Island, he was getting a lot of psychiatric care through all of his incarcerations. You'll see that, like, he's getting a lot of psychiatric care, which is so interesting to me because I don't know. In my head, I just never really saw the 1960s as like a time for like reformative, like psychiatric care, but maybe I was always thinking of it from a woman's perspective.
Right. I mean, weren't they still doing lobotomies and stuff then?
Were they? Can
I
you
don't.
Google that? Let me see it. So the first lobotomy was, let's see, they were performed wide scale the 1940s, performing more than 3,500 by the late 1960s. The practice fell out of favor in the mid 1950s.
Okay.
So
So,
this was just before
right, right, right.
lobotomies were out of style. Yeah, and they're in this huge like I don't know, it just seems like this guy gets a lot of breaks because the psychiatric departments are always like, "Oh, we can
Hmm.
fix him." And it I don't know, just I feel like a woman at the time would not have gotten that kind of treatment.
Right. They would have been. Yeah. Man, was he like super charming or something?
I think he
Like,
was a little charming. Yeah, and he
yeah.
was very smart too. Which we'll get to that. He had a high IQ. So I think he was
Hmm.
really good at like getting people on his side. Like it was funny the a lot of this information, I'll put all the sources in the show notes, but one of his psychiatrists in the book, they mentioned how like his psychiatrist was like ranting and raving about him, and like they gave this whole profile of like his childhood and everything, and they said one thing he didn't mention, and it was his ability to get people on his side. And it was funny that
Mm.
the psychiatrist didn't mention that because it was almost like the psychiatrist was in the position of being bought onto his side and like
Oh my
didn't even
gosh.
realize that he had done that to the psychiatrist type of thing.
That is so scary.
It's, yeah, definitely freaky. So in his time with all the psychiatric help, he lied to multiple psychiatrists, and swapped his stories a few times. He sometimes he would say he has amnesia and can't remember the whole thing. Then the next doctor, he would say that Lois and he were having an affair, which is just like so. it's like you've done enough damage to Lois and her reputation,
Mhm.
like, and now you're going for her reputation too. Like, you've
Oh my
done
God.
enough. And it just pisses me off that he tries to say that in any way she wanted him sexually. It's so
That's
disgusting.
disgusting. Yeah.
Yeah, it
Ugh.
it fires me up. It makes me so mad. And then in 1964, before his first parole hearing, he changed his story to, "Oh, I just snapped." So like she was didn't have an affair with me. I haven't forgotten. I just snapped in the moment. And then 1966, 2 years later, he changed his story back to Lois is having an affair with me. That one makes me so mad. So his first release, he had tried to be paroled quite a few times. That had been denied. And then April 7th, 1969, he reached his mandatory parole date, which sounds like an absolutely crazy thing to me. If you're sentenced for 14 years, how do you have a mandatory parole date at 9 years?
Ew. Yeah.
Like, what does that mean? So you just have to get out?
So you got 9 years?
Right,
Like,
right. So
ugh.
he reached the mandatory parole date and was released on April 7th, 1969, 9 years after being incarcerated. Carpenter met his second wife soon after, Helen, through therapy classes he was attending while on probation, and they married in August 8th, 1969. So just 4 months after he was out of jail. He had a great record with the probation office until he didn't. He ghosted them in December 1969, and he was supposed to be on probation until 1974. So
Perfect.
cut a few years off there.
Yeah.
He went on a crime frenzy from after, so December he stopped reaching out to his probation officer. The end of January to the very beginning of February, there was about 5 days where he went on a crime frenzy. So January 27th, 1970, his wife was out of town and he drove a woman off the road. She hid in the bushes and he was looking for her for a while and got frustrated and drove off. Thank God for her scrappiness. Like,
Yes.
so she got away, and I love that. Like, and I have a little note here that says, "Thank the Lord, this woman was so handy."
Yeah.
um, but he kept driving, unfortunately, looking for victims, and he spotted a car that seemed to be moving sluggishly with a woman as the driver, and he hit her car with his car. The woman whose car he hit was 19-year-old Cheryl Lynn. He attacked her, drug her up a nearby hill, and attempted to rape her at knife point. As she struggled to get away from him, he stabbed her and severed her right tricep and also deeply stabbed her left palm. After injuring her, his demeanor changes abruptly, which is so strange, and he offered to follow her home and help her get bandaged up, which I almost feel like he maybe felt like he was kind of losing control of the situation, and he was just like, "Oh, all of a sudden I'm this nice guy and I'll help you. Just come to this
I
other
can fix it.
location and
Yeah.
I can fix it. Just go to this other location that's not here where you
That's
can just
so
get away from
creepy,
me.
dude.
Maybe somewhere with walls." So she refused his help because she's a badass. She
Right.
got up, got in her car, and drove to the nearest like establishment I think she could see with lights, which was a hotel, and it was very bright lights, and he was still following her, like he said he would. But as she got pretty close to the hotel, he went around her, but before he could get away, she got his license plate, saw his license plate. And I just have in the notes here another absolute badass woman.
Yes.
These women were scrappy.
Yep. Yep. They had their
um,
wits about them.
yeah, they knew what they were doing.
That is just so terrifying.
I know, right? And the fact that like they made all the right decision, like
Yeah.
like both of these women in the same night, like were able to get away from like that's
He must
amazing.
have been like so pissed.
Carpenter went home and he was expecting the cops to show up soon because he was pretty sure she would have seen his license plate and the car, his wife owned the car, so he knew that they would be coming. So they did come that night. They knocked at his door, and he walked out the back door because they weren't
Okay.
there. Yeah, they were at the front one, so why not just kind of bop out the back one? So
Yep.
he bopped out the back one. He walked 3 hours from San Francisco to a town called Daly City. So he just kind of popped out the back of his house that the cops were at,
So close. So close.
and he walked out. He had no car. He didn't have a horse to get on. No, he just walked out
Oh my gosh.
and walked to a city 3 hours away.
Casually, yeah.
Casually. Okay. And he
Probably
stayed
whistling. Oh man.
and he stayed in an abandoned house for the night. He hitchhiked the next morning to Santa Cruz and got dropped off near a wooded area, which was about an hour drive from Daly City. That day, January 28th, he broke into the house of teacher Wilma Joyce McDonald as she was coming home with her 2 children, 2 boys aged 7 and 3. Carpenter took the teacher from her home, leaving the children. He sexually assaulted her and then brought her back after stealing her Mercedes-Benz and some clothes of her husband's. He headed back towards Daly City in her Mercedes-Benz. Around 8 in the morning, January 29th, Carpenter attacked 25-year-old Sharon O'Donnell in the parking garage of her apartment complex, which is just like everyone's worst nightmare in a parking garage, I feel like.
Yeah.
He tied her hands and forced her into the Mercedes-Benz that he had stolen from the teacher. He was trying to switch the plates from Sharon's car to the Mercedes-Benz when Sharon was able to flee and get away from him. So then he panicked and he just stole Sharon's car and drove off quickly. Another scrappy ass bitch.
Right.
These women, they knew how to survive.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Like, I don't know if I
Go
would have
girls.
it in me. And I love them. I don't know.
It's like
That's amazing.
you like to think that you would be able to run, but like, do you ever have those dreams where either it's like you're trying to run away from something and
You're in
you
jello.
can't, like your legs, yeah, you're just like, oh, my legs. Yeah.
Or trying to fly. Like, you're so sure that you can fly.
Yeah.
But you just
Yep.
can't take off for some reason.
You know, I have this reoccurring dream where for some reason I like am wearing really high heels and I forget how to walk in heels and I'm literally stumbling all over the place and my legs are like noodles and everyone's like, I feel like I need a strap at all times. Like I need some
Oh,
form of
100.
strap.
For sure.
Yeah. Oof.
This
Yeah.
was in the 1960s. They may have been running in heels and hiding in bushes
Yeah.
in heels.
Dang.
These women
Yeah. Let's go,
are
girls, for sure.
absolute heroes. The Mercedes-Benz that was left behind had a bloody flashlight, a hunting knife, brown electrical cord with an end tied into a slip knot in the electrical cord. So probably not great things
Yeah.
that indicates. Carpenter hid out in the woods for a few days. On February 3rd, Carpenter surprised Lucille Davis, a cleaning woman at her employer's residence, at the back door of the house. He restrained her, robbed her, and stole her car. 45 minutes later, same day, 25-year-old housewife Barbara Robb was thinking that her husband was knocking at the back door and was surprised to see Carpenter there instead. Carpenter brought Barbara and her infant son to a campsite where he sexually assaulted her. And then he had her drop him off near Oakdale, California. From Oakdale, Carpenter hitchhiked a ride to the train station in Modesto, where he was spotted by an officer and was arrested. Thank God.
Thank God. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
The fact that she was with her infant is
Infant
so
son.
terrifying.
So
And like those two
terrifying.
boys, even though we left them alone, like
Yeah. There's a lot
that
of
just makes,
instances where the kids, I was like, oh my God.
dude.
And there's a lot of reports of this guy, I should say too, when he was under 18. So we had the one report of the cousins. There are also other reports. I just couldn't find enough different sources to validate them. But it seems like there was a lot of molestation and pedophilia prior to him becoming an adult as well on other children. Just a monster. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he went to Calaveras County Jail was where he was originally sent when he was arrested. He was arrested February 3rd, 1970, while he was awaiting trial and sentencing. I think the trial had already happened at this point. He was just awaiting sentencing. But Monday, April 27th, 1970, Carpenter led an escape with 4 other inmates by cutting through their cell bars and climbing out a skylight, which maybe prisoners don't need skylights at this point.
Right. They'll be fine without
well,
them.
don't let them out.
Right. Oh, gosh.
Luckily, they were soon sniffed out by the bloodhounds and returned to their cells. A few days later, May 1st, Carpenter was sentenced. And this whole part was kind of confusing in the research for me to find out, like, exactly what charges he was sentenced with and how many years the actual sentencing was originally versus, like, the amount of time that he actually did. What I was able to find was that for the 2 counts that he was sentenced for armed robbery, he did 5 to life. And for the 1 count of kidnapping, he was charged 1 to 25 years. For the 2 counts of auto theft and prison escape, he was sentenced 6 to 5 years. So I'm not sure what all that added up because they're all like ranges. So I don't know like what the actual sentencing amount of years added up to.
They're like mandatory parole, 5 years.
Right. I do know how much time he actually served, which we'll get to here shortly. But before we get there, the judge did say at his sentencing that, and I quote, "This man is extremely dangerous and that he should be incarcerated for a substantial period of time."
Thank you.
Thank you. It's so good to hear someone say that.
Right.
So he went to Vacayville. While he was incarcerated there, Carpenter was indicted for 5 counts initially and pled guilty to all 5. While he was there at Vacayville, he had more psychiatric treatment. Thank goodness. And
yes.
In May 1970, upon arrival, Carpenter was evaluated to have a high IQ of 125 and a personality disorder that manifested itself in hostility towards women. Shocker.
Right. They could have told you that how many years ago?
Yeah, so this is 1970s, so I think we knew that 10 years ago from Lois.
Goodness.
And then years before that, even from other women.
Right.
So if they had just let the women kind of run the show from the beginning,
yeah,
I think things may look a little different.
Mm-hmm. Right. Mm-hmm. I bet like the second the whole cousins molestation thing happened, done.
Women, those mamas would have had him out of there.
Yeah, you lost your chance. Like you had one chance. And it's
so
gone. Easy not to ruin that chance, and you ruined it. So
and there it went. Yeah.
Yeah.
So another psychiatrist, while he was there, evaluated him for a probation report and noted that David was not liked by his siblings and his parents since he was 7 when he developed a stutter. He was forced to use his right hand instead of his left hand as well by his mother and teacher, and he was left-handed. So I think they were kind of contributing that to maybe what caused him to grow up with this, what they're viewing as an illness, I think.
This animosity.
Yeah. Another psychiatrist, Dr. Ralph Allen, stated, and I quote, "He is a very bright man who has many capabilities, and he is not a professional criminal. It would seem worth the state's time and money to try an effective rehabilitation approach for him for a change." End quote.
Way to like mansplain a serial rapist. Like, are you serious?
Not a professional criminal? Since when?
Right.
Since whenever in his life.
Dude, he made a gun out of a fountain pen.
A fucking pen.
Like,
why did he have that? Just for his non-professional criminal days?
Yeah, just for funsies. A little hobby. No.
I think I have to disagree, Dr. Allison.
Yeah. Respectfully, disrespectfully.
Disrespectfully
There's actually
disagree.
no respect.
Yeah, no, I have to disrespectfully disagree to that. I
Yeah.
really love that, actually. I'm glad you said that. um, Between June 1970 and December 1972, Carpenter was moved between a few different facilities. During his time at the different facilities, he had no disciplinary problems. Once his federal time was up, he went on to serve time in multiple other facilities that were also federal facilities for violating the terms of his 1960s assault conviction probation. Carpenter made friends during this time, one of which who was Molly Jo Purnell, who was a pen pal of his while he was in jail, which is always a very strange.
Oh, Molly Joe.
Oh,
Was
Molly
that the
Jo
name?
Purnell.
Yeah.
All of the women who are writing these kinds of people in jail, I've never been able to wrap my head around it.
Very odd. Yeah.
Carpenter was released to a halfway house May 21st, 1979, under federal supervision 9 years after his conviction.
Okay.
So this is the second time we're like,
He's fine.
just let him out.
Yeah.
9 years
What
is
could
enough.
go wrong?
9 years
Yeah.
is enough. So as much as I couldn't figure out how much he was actually sentenced, he got out after 9 years.
Oh my Lanta. Yeah.
So first time 9 years, second time 9 years. Okay. What could happen?
Yeah.
Right. So he was released May 21st, 1979. He was on parole until October 28th, 1982. So for at least 3 years after he got released. August 20th, 1979, Etta Kane's body was found on a hiking trail in Mill Valley, California. Her body was found in a kneeling position, face down, as if she was forced to beg for her life. Etta was reported missing after not returning from her hike the night before. She was shot in the back of the head with a .44 caliber gun. Some of Etta's clothing had been taken by her assailant. One of Carpenter's neighbors around this time also reported a .44 caliber gun missing from their home.
Okay. A clue.
In hindsight, yeah.
Right.
After the halfway house, Carpenter moved back home with his parents. Mary Frances Bennett was 23 years old. She was found on October 21st, 1979, and she was stabbed 25 plus times. She went missing while jogging in a park near Land's End, San Francisco. Her body was found lazily buried in a shallow grave near a golf course with twigs covering her. That Sunday, Carpenter was treated in an ER for a deep wound to his left thumb and various cuts to his hand. Carpenter told the doctors he was bitten by a dog while hiking. Also, another hindsight. So these facts, I'm sure, were collected in hindsight. You know, like they didn't have them like at the time of all of this unfolding, but it is like, damn. And these days, this kind of stuff would raise more flags, but at the time, like communication wasn't as good, and it was probably hard to put it all together in real time. So Carpenter gets a job after graduating printing school that he was going to as a general handyman / assistant for a keychain company. Around this time, Barbara Schwartz goes missing after hiking with her dog on March 8th, 1980. She was attacked and stabbed by Carpenter. At about 5:30 p.m., a witness saw the attack and yelled for Carpenter to stop. Carpenter ran off after hearing the witness yell. The witness ran down the mountain to get help. Once the witness got down there and called for police, the police came up the mountain as well. Barbara's dog wouldn't let the deputies near her body for some time, which is just like, I know every time I like say
That,
it,
like, gets,
it wells some things up in me for sure. It's just so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
Carpenter left his eyeglasses at the scene. Barbara's body had defensive wounds, so authority assumed that the assailant also had wounds on him. 35 miles away, the same day, Carpenter went to a hospital and had wounds treated. Carpenter had deep wounds on his right hand and thumb, and he told the doctor that he was in an attempted robbery at a 7-Eleven. The doctor, James Tuzinski, another hero of the story, just doing the right thing, was required to report any stabbings, and he did so accordingly. So good on you, doctor. You were doing the right thing. The people who didn't do the right thing, well, I don't know if they didn't necessarily do the right thing or they didn't have, like, the capabilities in place at the time, but the police came out and questioned Carpenter at the hospital, and they believed his story that the 7-Eleven had been robbed. There were no reports of the 7-Eleven being robbed, and although Marin County Sheriff's Department was looking for someone with defensive wounds from Barbara's assault, they did send out an APB, but the department who was questioning him didn't have the right equipment to receive an APB at the time. Now, I would think, okay, so there's some kind of equipment, right, that receives these things. You would think if you don't have the equipment, maybe, because I know this is what, 1981?
Yeah.
You would think maybe someone, because phones do exist at this point, you would think
Right.
maybe if the APB equipment isn't in place, maybe like just picking up the phone and saying, hey there, hello, hi, there is an APB.
Just so you know.
Is that
And
is that
they
a
have like
is
radios
that a crazy
and stuff.
thought? Right, radio, telephone, like fucking
Like,
beep 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 beep. What is that one? Beep beep beep. Send it that way.
yeah. For
Right?
God's sakes.
Like we can communicate whatever this equipment was. Like something tells me there was a way
Mhm.
around it at the time, but I guess it wasn't taken, or I don't know. Who knows what happened? He slipped through the cracks. They let him go. They believed him. It was determined that the weapon used in Barbara's stabbing was a 10-inch long boning knife. Police were considering Etta and Barbara's murders to be linked, but they weren't sure because of the different weapons used. So just to kind of recap, Barbara was the boning knife, and then Etta had the .44 caliber gun. So very different weapons. So like there's some things similar, but like some of these are so not similar that it's hard to link them.
Mhm.
The cops began speaking to optometrists in the area about anyone getting glasses replaced with a prescription of the glasses that were found at the scene of Barbara's murder. They also discovered that the glasses were institutional frames and given to someone at Vacayville, the institution that he was at most
There we
recently.
go.
The police were told it would be difficult to find whose glasses those were through searching through the files, but the Marin County police searched anyways to no avail. They tried. Yeah.
Yeah.
But they didn't
They
get
were
there.
on a good lead then. Yeah.
Yeah. March 10th, 1980, 2 days after the attack on Barbara, Carpenter went to the optometrist to get his glasses repaired. And I can't remember the specifics. I'm pretty sure the cops went to that exact optometrist after, and somehow he fell through the cracks again.
This slippery little snake.
It's so fucking annoying, dude.
Oh,
The amount of people that
God.
were affected by, like,
this
and
freaking
all these
dude.
things were right there. It's, with today's, like, capabilities in today's time, no way this guy would have gotten away with this shit.
Yeah. Damn.
Yeah. So, March 11th, high schoolers found the blade that was used in Barbara's murder. The children knew well enough not to touch the knife. So they found adults nearby, and it happened to be a camera crew who was filming at the time. And the camera, someone from the camera crew picked up the knife, and then pretty much made it to where there was no possibility of getting fingerprints off of it because they touched it. The kids were
Wow.
smart enough not to. So they got adults, and then adults did the wrong thing.
Oh my God. Go figure, right?
Yeah. Not surprising.
Right.
So, March 13th, 1980, police spoke to some hikers who saw David Carpenter right before he attacked Barbara, but they weren't sure if the hikers had seen David or someone else because the hikers told the cops that he looked more like an accountant, but the cops knew they were looking for a parolee. And then I have a little bullet point here that said, I'm not sure how that means he couldn't have looked like an accountant.
Right. Jeez.
So it seemed like there was some weird, like, 1980s stereotypes going on here.
I guess if you're an accountant, you can get away with murder. So,
You don't, well, you don't look like a parolee, which what the fuck does a
right,
parolee look like?
right.
Like
Like,
he's not wearing a jumpsuit anymore. He's not in prison. Like, it could be any of the people at this point, right?
right. They don't have like a sign on their shirt.
Right.
Although maybe they should. I don't know.
Yeah. Then I have an asterisk here, slight flashback because that was in March 13th when the police spoke to some of the hikers. So we're going back now to January 1980, so a little bit earlier that year. Carpenter had borrowed a 22 caliber revolver from Molly Purnell, Molly Joe, and under the guise of needing it for target practice. And a couple weeks later, he told her that it was stolen. Molly was suspicious and offered to go to the firing range with Carpenter when he said it was for target practice, but he
Yeah,
refused to go with her.
that's funny. You know he's probably like, "No, Molly Joe, you
Molly,
can't come with me."
being too needy.
Right. He's like, "No, it would be fun. It would be like a couples thing, like a
Ladies' night
date."
at the gun range,
Right.
which they have here at my local one. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. There we
Yeah.
go. It's probably fun.
I haven't been, but I've heard about it. So he finally convinced Molly Purnell to buy him a gun. Molly wanted nothing to do with him after this. She accepted his money to this because he was pushy and she was behind on bills. But she initially didn't want to do it and ended their friendship after this because she knew he was talking to other women and her debts to him were paid off after she got him the gun. And then I have another bullet point after this that said the friendship continues later though, eye roll. So she was clearly like suspicious of him, why he's wanting this gun, why the guns are going missing. And she knew he was up to no good pretty much, but then just ends up, she cuts off the friendship. She says she does, but she doesn't actually. Yeah. So October 11th, 1980, Rick and Cindy go missing. They were recently engaged 3 days before they went missing. Rick was getting restationed to Point Reyes, and they were going to check it out on October 11th, and then they were supposed to be home to Cindy's sister's house that night, October 11th. So when they didn't show up for dinner that night, Cindy's sister got worried. She knew that Cindy had hiked in the Point Reyes area before, and she was excited to show Rick some of the areas they had hiked before. They went up the Skyrim Trail, and they were never seen again after that. October 15th, Cindy's sister reports her missing. And then I just have here that they got engaged 3 days before, which is just like so fucking tragic. Molly Purnell, surprise, continued to receive calls from Carpenter. He called her October 5th, 8th, 9th, 10th, and 12th, but not the 11th. And the 11th was the day that Rick and Cindy went missing. October 13th, and Evelyn Alderson went on a hike in Mill Valley, California. One of the last sightings of her was from an employee who worked at a local inn that was just at the trailhead. And after his shift, he went on an evening run and he saw her sitting in an area called the Mountain Theater, which is like an amphitheater that's kind of carved out into the mountainside. And she was just sitting there in deep thought, and she was super into yoga and stuff, so she was probably meditating or
Just in
something
like
like
her
that.
happy place.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly.
Damn.
She was reported missing October 13th. This same day, October 13th, Carpenter had a really bad day at work. Oh, boo-hoo.
Right.
His boss had been out of work for a while and came back that day and was just kind of irate and screaming at everyone. So,
Yeah.
poor,
I guess sometimes bosses do that.
yeah, poor Carpenter. Search was conducted October 14th for Anne. Her car was left in the parking lot of the West Point Inn, which is the inn that the employee worked at, and her trunk had been pried open. On top of the spare tire were some tools, her purse, and her hiking boots. She was last sighted only 1.5 miles from the parking lot where Etta Kane had been found. Her body was found in a kneeling position over a rock and thought to have been it was thought that she had been forced to beg for her life. October 15th was the day that her body was discovered. She had one shot to the right side of her head, and the cops noticed that the Trailside Killer, so they just know him as the Trailside Killer at this point, he always kills somewhere where there's a significant hike in. It's not like he can just like jump in his car and run away. Like it's almost always at least a mile or more of a hike in.
Kind of calling back to the military base deserted road.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like these like remote areas. Yeah. And was fully clothed when she was found, but there was semen in her underwear. They also did DNA genetic markers testing. They were able to narrow down the suspect to within 6% of the population based on like the secretion and some type of electrophoresis. It was thought that he took her off the trail and then allowed her to get dressed again before murdering her. An officer working on the case noticed that her murder was on Columbus Day as well, which may point to her assailant having a job that gives holidays off, which was the case.
Interesting.
So after Barbara and Ann's murders, Bob Gadini, a Marin County officer, requested from the DOJ a list of all recently released men with a history of sex crimes. Carpenter was not included on the list.
He's now, like the most.
Right. And there's a bit of a reason. Yes. And there's a bit of a reason for this discrepancy. It's kind of like the inner jurisdiction, the classic jurisdictional discrepancy. So they were looking for someone on parole, and Carpenter was not technically on parole because he was in a halfway house, for one. Which is like weird. Such a silly technicality. Also, he was released to the federal institution because of those 39 extra months he had to serve because of the probation violation. And because he was released to federal, so state law requires that Carpenter were to register himself as a sex offender, but the federal law did not. So he didn't have to register himself as a sex offender, and he also wasn't considered a parolee, even though he was on parole, because he went to a halfway house.
Gosh, it's like the perfect storm.
The amount of times this slimy motherfucker just slips through the cracks it's despicable. It's so frustrating.
He's probably so cocky because of it too. He's like, oh, it'll be fine. I can do what I want.
Mark McDermott, who I don't know if we have him on the list, but we're gonna have to add him to the list of episodes if we don't already have him on there. Okay. He's a person who was suspected as the Trailside Killer for some time. And there were quite a few like chapters on him in the book that I read for this case. And it's an interesting case, so maybe we cover that at some point too. But Mark McDermott was considered as a suspect because he killed his mom and his brother on the same day as Ann Alderson's murder, and police also found out that he had a .38 caliber gun. It was later found out that that was not the gun that was used in the Trailside murders, though, so it definitely was not Mark McDermott for the Trailside killings. But they did suspect him for some time. Let's see, this whole bit can be skipped. So November 28th, 1980, Diane O'Connell went missing between two other women hiking down switchbacks. Do you know what switchbacks are?
I feel like, no, I don't.
That's okay. Yeah, you don't have to know what they are.
I was I'm trying to think.
When you go like up or down a mountain, like they'll have like the trails are carved out into the mountain as like zigzags because it's too intense to go straight up or straight down the mountain. So you kind of go in this like zigzag pattern down. So
Roxanne has one of those.
Yes, yeah. So all three women were in this group together, and they all three hiked up to the top, and then like had some conversation at the top, and then they all knew that they were gonna hike down at different paces. So they said, they kind of separated, but they knew in what order they were all in because they would have passed each other otherwise,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it was one friend and then Diane and then the other friend. So the first friend gets down to the bottom and is waiting for Diane. Diane doesn't come. Finally, the third friend shows up and they're like, wait, where was Diane? She was in the middle of, like, we know she was in the middle because she hadn't passed either of us. So she had to be in the middle. And then also when Diane went missing, Shauna May was hiking up the trail at the same time. And Shauna May actually walked into Diane O'Connell being abducted and was pulled off the trail as well because she happened to walk up on the abduction. So hikers on the trail, and the trail was about 50 yards away from where Diane and Shauna were at the time, heard one gunshot at 3:10 p.m. and another shot 50 seconds later. The women were forced to strip, fold their clothes neatly on their bags, and then kneel before Carpenter shot them. Police searched that night, but the fog forced them to quit at 11 p.m., and they were searching for both Shauna and I think Shauna had a partner that she was hiking up with as well, but also like staggered pace. So they were searching for both the women and had to call it off at 11 p.m. because the fog got too thick. So they started the search again the next day. As the search teams were searching the next day, they did find two bodies, but the bodies were more decomposed than they expected for Shauna and Diane, who had gone missing the day before. And those bodies actually ended up being Rick and Cindy, who were, yeah, the
The
couple who went
newlywed or the recently
engaged.
engaged.
Yeah, I know. I keep wanting to
Oh my
say
God.
newlyweds too. Yeah. And so sadly, the man's face was facing Cindy. Um, which, yeah, it's so fucking heartbreaking.
What a monster, dude.
Mm. Mm-hmm. And then Diane and Shauna were found about a half a mile away from the other victims, from Rick and Cindy. It was determined that Diane was strangled and then shot in the back of the head. Women's underwear were found stuffed into the mouth of Diane's body. Bruising on Shauna's body indicated a piano wire type weapon was used on her wrist, and she had two shots to the back of her head and one into her right eye, which is so personal.
Yeah, so unnecessary, dude. Like all of it, obviously, but
But that really
ugh.
shows like a certain level of anger, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like. And it's kind of believed that it was because she interrupted the abduction, that maybe that's
Gotcha.
where the anger came from.
Wow.
A pair of underwear lay in front of Shauna's head as well that had probably come out of her mouth when she was shot. Her body was found with her legs spread as well, Shauna's. Ella Hansen and Steve Hurdle go missing March 28th, 1981 from Henry Cowell Park. Ella wanted to bring her boyfriend camping for the first time. She was like an experienced outdoors woman, and he wasn't very experienced, and she like knew all the plants with their scientific names and everything, and was just like so excited to bring him out on his first camping trip. Ella's mother, so this was right after a trip that Ella was taking to Hawaii with her mother, and her mother was supposed to join them on this trip in Santa Cruz. But something came up for her mother and she ended up not being able to come on the trip. Ella and Steve initially passed Carpenter on a hike, on their way to a redwood grove. So they're hiking down to it and they pass him on the way, and he was actually like cursing and yelling when they passed him, and he was very out of breath. So they like took him as someone who wasn't experienced enough to like be where they were, and he was headed back to what they thought was the trailhead in the parking lot and such. So they just assumed he was frustrated and heading back. In between the time Ella and Steve saw Carpenter again, Carpenter was spotted on an observation deck, which is kind of lower down on the trail, or I guess sooner on the trail if you're coming from the parking lot. So there's a parking lot, the observation deck, and then the Redwood Grove Trail that Ellen and Steve are going down. On the observation deck, Carpenter conversed with a couple hikers, but he was being strange, and instead of looking out at the view, he was looking down at the trails below. And there was an opening in the trail that you could see from that observation deck where Ellen and Steve were coming back up the trail at this point now from the redwood grove that they had visited. So Ellen and Steve run back into Carpenter, and he pulls a gun out on them and pretty much separates them. Carpenter tells Steve that he has to walk down. Carpenter forces Steve to walk down the trail away from him and Ellen, and he was telling Steve that I just want to sexually assault Paper. I'm not gonna hurt you guys. Right. So Steve is forced to walk away, and he's doing that. And then he hears gunshots. And then it stated that the hikers on the observation deck, which wasn't far from this scene, they heard 4 or 5 shots. The 5th shot, they're not sure if it was just echoing in the canyon or not. Ellen was shot first, and then Steve. Steve was unconscious for some amount of time after being shot. And then when he came to, he realized that Ellen had passed away, and he saw Carpenter there still, and he ran down the trail back towards the observation deck. And after he realized Ellen couldn't be helped, he ran towards the observation deck and parking lot. He ran into other hikers who began assisting getting him back to the observation deck. And then one of the hikers actually went back up the trail looking for Ellen as well. And Steve was telling people, I was shot, and he was obviously clearly shot. And then his girlfriend was shot, and he was telling people, my girlfriend's dead. So that's why they went up the trail. They weren't sure if he was just like in shock or what, but they went up the trail to check on her. And the hiker who did go up the trail to check on her did pass Carpenter going up the trail, but didn't know that it was Carpenter at the time. So Carpenter comes back down the trail. He was telling people that the person who shot her was in a yellow jacket. So other people now going down the trail asking for help were looking for someone in this yellow jacket. And someone did see him speeding out of the parking lot in his car, and he was blaring on his horn too when he was speeding out of the parking lot. So he sped out, he got away, but he was very noticeable this time, which is kind of off his MO of what he usually does. So Ellen and Steve were shot with a .38. Steve survived. Ellen was lost on the scene, unfortunately.
It's terrible, dude.
Mm-hmm. Authorities recognized the significance in the anger shown by the assailant in both Shauna May's case and Ellen's cases, because I believe Ellen was also shot in the eye. And I think it may have been because there were 2 of them, maybe. I don't know, though, because Carpenter walked up on both of them. So, I don't know, but he was obviously frustrated earlier, too, when they ran into him, so.
It's all cussing and stuff. And maybe, like, because he did rape women before without killing them. Maybe he was going to do that this time. Maybe she tried to fight back,
Yeah.
and that's why he, shot her in the eye,
Yeah, it did seem like she was resisting him and telling Steve, no, he's just going to shoot us anyways, don't listen. But, Steve thought that he was doing the best by listening to, and God, just such a shit situation.
Right. I would not know what to do in that situation. That would be super tough.
And I think that
you're just kind of screwed either way.
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think that is why he's angry, because she didn't just give in to him.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was someone else there that he was worried about as well, on top of that. So there were shoe prints collected from the scene that were distinct. So it's good that they're getting more and more evidence, at least.
Mm-hmm.
Anna Kelly Minjavar was 17 years old when she went missing on December 28th, 1980, so 3 days after Christmas. She was a bank teller who gave Carpenter attention, and then Carpenter specifically gave her attention after that. Carpenter would come into the bank all the time, specifically just to talk to her, just kind of making up excuses to be there, like getting his pennies turned into dollars or dollars turned into nickels, or just like silly stuff where it seemed like he was just trying to like chit chat with her. He offered her bookkeeping lessons, telling her that he was a bookkeeper himself, which he was not. She went missing December 28th from her bed between 9 a.m. and 6 a.m. And I believe she still lived with her mother at this time. That's why they knew the specific timing. April 20th, 1981, Wood, who was Carpenter's parole officer, reached out to Carpenter to let him know that the police department from Santa Cruz wanted a photo of him. So they're warming up. They're getting a little warm on the trail at this point. David didn't get back to Wood until April 26th, so like 6 days later. So we're going back a little bit here. April 2nd, 1981, Carpenter came back into the bank that Kelly used to work at. So she went missing December 28th. April 2nd, he goes back into the bank. So he hadn't been into the bank all that time in between. Her manager now recognized Carpenter as the man who used to come specifically to see Kelly until she disappeared in December of 1980. So it wasn't until he came back in that he's like, oh, wait a minute, this feels strange.
Yeah.
This guy used to always come here specifically for her, and then the second she went missing, he didn't come anymore. Like, how would he know?
Right. He messed up there.
Right. Very strange, yeah. Also in this time between December and April, Carpenter had grown a beard, and he'd started wearing contact lenses instead of eyeglasses. So it's almost like he's trying to change his appearance. A woman spoke to Berest, who was the manager. He was the manager at the bank, and it doesn't say her name, and I think it's trying to kind of conceal her name because she didn't want to be named. But she spoke to the manager in March of 1981 and said that she was concerned because the man who used to chat with Kelly all the time had been arrested in 1960 in Presidio for attacking a young secretary who I believe was Lois Rinna. So this woman like knew some of his background. I don't know how, I don't know who she was, but she like told this bank manager, hey, and this was in March. It was 3 months after Kelly had gone missing. But she's like, hey, I saw that guy talking to Kelly all the time, and this guy was actually arrested for creepy things. So April 17th, Barras finally decided to notify the authorities about his suspicions about Carpenter. Carpenter was now working as a typesetting instructor at a printing organization that was affiliated with the school that he attended, which was like, it was some kind of typing school. Different time.
Cool story, bro.
Different time. Carpenter made friends with a woman named Heather Skaggs that attended the school as well, and eventually started working at the same printing organization that he worked at. Carpenter would drive Heather home sometimes. Eventually, Carpenter tried to convince Heather to take a trip with him to Santa Cruz so that she could purchase a car from a buddy of his for a really great price. Heather was initially resistant, and he kind of used different ploys to like convince her. The first ploy he used was he told her that his friend also owned a printing shop, and that she could talk to him about getting a job because they both graduated from this like printing school. And then she was still resistant, so he insisted that she could find some of the ferns that she had been looking for to add to her collection, because she had collected and sampled ferns from like the Muir Woods and Mount Tamalpais, which was in the area, and was just super interested in ferns and different species of ferns. And that ended up being the thing that convinced her in the end to take the trip with him. So she was finally convinced by the fern thing, and Carpenter told her not to tell her boyfriend, her roommates, her mom, or anyone that they were going on this trip, and he told her to bring the $400 in cash for the down payment on the car. She said that she would come, but only if her friend Dan could come, her boyfriend Dan could come, and Carpenter said, no, my friend who sells the car is like, kind of hesitant around strangers, and I don't want you to miss out on this good deal because you bring a friend along. So Heather did end up telling her boyfriend and her roommate, Dan and Tammy, that she was planning on going on this trip. She admitted to her roommate she was nervous to go and that Carpenter told her not to tell anyone and to bring cash. Her roommates begged her not to go. Heather told her roommates, if I don't call by 3 p.m., get worried, and if I'm not home by 7, call the cops. Heather then called her mother and told her mother about her worries as well. Her mother was under the impression when they got off the phone that Heather decided she wasn't going to go to Carpenter, and they hung up on those terms. Her roommate, who was her boyfriend, Dan, so she had two roommates. It was Dan and Tammy, but one of the roommates was her boyfriend, Dan. He literally got on his knees and told her he loves her and asked her not to go. She told him if he demands that she doesn't go, she won't. And he said that their relationship is built on love and trust, and he won't do that. But he said, if you do go, the least you have to do is like leave his contact, his address and phone number.
Gosh, these people were doing like all the right things.
I know, dude. Everyone but the cops. And even the cops were trying too. It's just like a lot of like shit communication at the time.
Right. It just shows you how like wily this dude is, because to be like, oh, you can't tell your friends, and thankfully she did. I guess we'll see how it turns out, but
and this was over a month that he was convincing her to come to this thing too. So she resisted for a while, and he finally like broke her down, promised her a job and like a cheap car, like this is the kind of stuff people need.
Yeah. And to prey on those like wants and desires like that. You suck, Carpenter.
You fucking suck. Monster.
Yeah.
So she went on the trip on May 2nd, 1981. When Heather wasn't home by 9:30, Dan called Carpenter's number that Heather left. Carpenter's mom answered and said that Carpenter had just left for the ballet and probably about 10 minutes ago and probably won't be back for hours. Which is strange, right? Because if he just left for the ballet, it means he was just home.
Right.
And
yikes.
She wasn't with him.
Yeah.
But
and
she was
still doing the ballet that he hates.
Yeah, I know. I think in his adult life, he enjoyed going to the ballet.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah. I did kind of skip over that, but he did enjoy going to the ballet in his adult life. Dan then called the police. They told him to wait another day and then call back. Typical. So frustrating. I know. Absolutely frustrating. Dan also notified Heather's mom, and then Dan met up with a friend of his and went to Carpenter's house and waited for Carpenter to come back from the ballet. When Carpenter got back home, Carpenter said he slept in and didn't pick Heather up from the convenience store that they were supposed to meet at that morning. Carpenter also showed Dan a receipt of a car repair that was completed at noon as an alibi, and he had actually borrowed a car from a friend of his while he put his car in the shop for like minor repairs that weren't necessary, and I feel like he was trying to set that up like as some kind of alibi. So now with his affiliation to Heather, her friends and family's suspicions after all the warnings that she gave them, and Carpenter's background, the police were onto him. Finally. May 24th, 1981, Heather's body was found. She had a bullet wound through her eye. She was shot somewhere else than where she was discovered and then dragged to where she was discovered. The caliber of bullet that was used was .38. She was left naked with one earring, just like Ann Alderson was. And it was determined that Heather had been sexually assaulted either right at the time of death or just before. They brought the jawbone home, showed a few friends of theirs. Their friends were horrified and shocked.
I hope they get haunted.
Yeah, and said, can you please call the authorities? So they did at that point. Called the authorities, and the dental records showed that the jaw was of Kelly Minjavar. who was that bank teller who went missing.
And what month was this? Like, when did they find it?
When it was found, it was June 16th, and it was
And she passed
1981.
just after December.
Yes,
Or
December.
just after Christmas.
Yes, December
Dang.
28th, yeah. So he ended up being arrested. So he was arrested a little bit before they found Kelly's remains. He was arrested May 15th, 1981, and he was convicted for the murder and attempted rape of Ellen Hansen, the rape and murder of Heather Skaggs, and the attempted murder of Hansen's hiking companion, Stephen Hurdle. In 1995, the San Francisco police also linked DNA from Mary Frances Bennett's crime scene to Carpenter as well. So he was linked to her case through DNA. So solid.
Wow.
He was never convicted for Etta and Barbara Schwartz's murder. Etta Kane and Barbara Schwartz's murders. He was never convicted for, but he is like the prime suspect in both of those and thought to be the murderer for those as well. I guess they only have circumstantial evidence and not like solid. I don't what is the alternative circumstantial, like physical,
Not
they
concrete
only physical evidence.
evidence?
Yeah, so they
Hard
only have
evidence.
they only have circumstantial, not physical evidence. So they haven't convicted him for that. He is still alive on death row. He's still living. I believe he's 90 years old now. 1930, 94. Is that right?
Wow.
19. Yeah, I Googled it today because I was like, no way.
Goodness. And this could have all been avoided.
Yeah, this fucker's still alive. I'm double checking because I'm like, can this be real?
No.
No, he's 94 years old, still on death row because he's in California and they don't do death row really. But he is on death row.
Wow.
So yeah, fuck this guy. Like,
My gosh. I'm looking at pictures of him right now and
horrific looking, terrifying. Can you
literally,
imagine this guy like coming at you on a trail?
this picture like really creeped me out for some reason.
It didn't come in. Yuck. Yeah, dude.
That is nightmare fuel. I need to stop looking at this.
That
Delete.
really is though. So I think we need a little palate cleanser.
Yes. Well, Taylor.
So Taylor had her 100th Eras Tour show.
Yeah.
100.
We were all clowning around town.
So maybe we should talk about our sign-in names too. Mine is Karma Clownin, and Sam is Waiting for So Long London in London, no spaces.
No spaces. Yep. And she has to play it in London.
100%. Yeah. I mean, I want it added to the set list in London. Like, I want it as part, because she doesn't do So Long London now, right?
I don't think so. Yeah, no.
I don't think so either.
She
Yeah,
hasn't
I've
sung
only
it at all.
Yeah, it's coming. It's gonna be. It has to be. It's gonna be night one.
And then the whole Maddie Healy getting engaged to Gabriette at the. Okay, so I actually learned about this a little bit about this today. So Charlie XCX, have you heard of that artist? She actually opened up for Taylor during the Reputation tour.
Oh, okay.
And you know how it's been kind of talked about how like anytime another artist is releasing some music, like Billie Eilish, now Charlie XCX, because Charlie XCX, I'm just gonna call her Charlie.
Please do.
I actually don't really know any of her songs, but it's like we've heard them a lot because they're all over TikTok, that kind of thing.
More than
so
me.
She released a new album. Taylor dropped those extra little things and like literally blocked her from the charts, and like it happened with Billie Eilish and all this stuff. And
the question is though, is she really blocking artists, or is she just putting out other variants every week as according to her schedule? It's hard to tell.
Exactly. Right. I would have to like look at the actual timeline. I can definitely see why people make it appear that way. Apparently she knocked her down. It was just by like 7,000 streams or something. It
Oh,
was
wow.
very close.
Yeah.
So people are like, well, your fans should just listen to you more. I don't know, like, which I get, but
I get both
I
sides.
don't,
Like, if you're an
yeah.
artist too, like trying to come up, it is frustrating that there's this billionaire artist who is
Mhm.
just like, obviously she has the cash flow to do whatever the fuck she wants, like
Right. Yeah.
dominating. But at the same time, it's like she's never had this kind of like
She's never done it like this
power.
before.
Right.
Right.
And like it's her time to shine finally. So
Hmm.
like kind of let her have give her 3 or 4 years before you're and yeah, she's always been like top of the charts and stuff, but she's never had this kind of fame, like the Eras Tour type fame until
It's a
these
different
last
level.
few years. Like let her have these few years at the very tip top before y'all start hating on it.
For sure, for
But
sure.
I get it
But what's
too.
also interesting is, okay, so Maddie Healy and Gabriette got engaged at
Yeah.
the Charlie concert. And Charlie
Oh,
raps, or she doesn't rap, she sings about Gabriette. She references Gabriette in one of her songs. So this is
okay.
all, and now Maddie Healy and Gabriette are engaged.
Huh.
So it just, and then also on stage, she referenced her, Charlie referenced her not getting number one and said, like, artistry will always shine through in the end. Like, she was definitely like digging at Taylor. So there's like a very public beef going on right now.
Ooh.
And just like the whole Ratty Healy engagement is just like another
Right.
layer into this whole thing. So
Okay.
just a bit of
Oh,
drama.
I didn't
Yeah.
know all that. Okay. Like a lot of people
Yep.
are saying too soon, and I felt like that was just like a strange comment because it's like I don't know these people. I can't say what's too soon and what isn't. Like,
Right.
would it
People have
maybe
gotten engaged in shorter amounts of time,
right?
so.
And would it maybe hurt Taylor? There's a chance, yeah, but like still you can't say
Mhm.
that these other people shouldn't get engaged. But like
Right. It probably, I mean,
interesting
it
to know
probably
all that.
sucks. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting to know all that though, like about them being at the Charlie concert and Charlie's like practically calling Taylor out on stage.
Yeah. And singing about her ex-boyfriend's fiance, So and it's just sad because they must have been, friendly at one point if she was opening up for her during the Reputation tour.
One
So.
would think.
Yeah, but I'll have to send you the clip of what she says on stage because it's like pretty pointed. She doesn't name names, but it's like so obvious like who she's talking
Ooh.
about. We're really looking forward to, I mean, all the shows really, but especially the London
Hmm.
shows.
Oh,
And
true,
London Boy.
yeah.
She's gonna do like London Boy and So Long
Do you think
London.
she'll do London Boy? I guess it hadn't even like come into my mind that she would do London Boy because I instantly think Joe when I think and London Boy, honestly, one of my favorite songs. And I know that's
It's
such
so
an unpopular
catchy.
opinion.
Yeah,
When
I
I was
know.
I
I like
went to
it.
London, March 2020, not a great time. Not a
Oh,
great time to go to London. The trip was cut short. We came back
right.
early. We didn't want to go, but we couldn't cancel everything before because the travel ban wasn't in place. But anyways, there was like a time period where we were stuck in our hotel because we were trying to reschedule our flights. And we just
Hmm.
went down to the hotel bar and we got a bottle of wine and brought it up to the room. And we were on hold with Delta trying to change our flights for like 7 hours.
Oh my God.
And I had London Boy on repeat the entire time.
Oh my God.
My poor
That's
boyfriend
great.
at the time.
Oh, he's like, I get it. We're
I
in
got a
London.
London boy.
Oh man, no, it is such a catchy song. But yeah, I hope it is. Well, it's like I feel maybe like a London Boy and So Long London would be like too personal. Maybe not. What am I saying?
No, she
I don't
gets
know.
personal with us.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like that doesn't even make sense.
Is it just me, or did her speech on the 100th show make it seem like she's getting a little burnt out from the Eras tour?
I mean,
I think,
yeah, because she could easily continue this.
yeah.
Just like Bruce Springsteen,
Mm-hmm.
like
But
she could
that's
keep
like
going,
if
people would come.
if she's
But
just like made of infinite energy. And I think
right.
it's probably got to start, it's got to be wearing on her at this point. Like the girl needs a break.
Right, right, for sure.
Yeah. And I feel like she is maybe feeling that a little bit because
I
it
mean,
seemed to be most of what she like. There was a lot of like, I'm happy that you guys have shown up this much and you guys have made it so much fun that we've wanted to do these mini shows, but like also
mhm.
it's consumed my entire life. And like the biggest thing that I want to make of the 100th show is that I'm saying that we are not doing any more than after December.
It ends in December.
Yeah.
And it's so funny because people like in comments, like there's a few of the Taylor Swift groups that we're in on Facebook. People are like, does this mean that there will be more shows? And like some people
Yeah.
were serious,
No,
dude.
people
And
keep
it's
saying
like,
that. And I'm like, what? No,
right.
she literally said there's going to be no more. And everyone's like, does this mean there what?
Yeah, just so
No.
more shows? No, girl.
As the crowd
No.
was chanting more.
Right. Like she anyway, it
I
was
also
just
thought it was
funny.
interesting how she said 150 something. And I have
Mm.
not seen that in I haven't seen any like TikTokers talk about that or anything, but I also haven't been on TikTok much. I've been so busy these last few weeks that I've barely been able to keep up with like what's going on in the world. But
Yeah.
150 something I think is very interesting because she knows that exact number. She can access that exact number very easily.
Right.
So it was interesting that she said 150 something shows by the end instead of saying the exact number that
Things
it was.
that is very interesting.
I don't know, that stuck out to me. I don't
Huh.
know why.
Yeah.
I don't know where that's going, but it did stick out to me.
I'll have to, yeah, I didn't even catch up on that, so I'll have to watch it and see if she like does she like smirk or anything? Because she like
So
sometimes,
I saw a
you know.
transcript of the speech, and that's where I
Mhm.
saw it written out at. But I remember
Gotcha.
thinking I heard her say that too, because I was trying to like listen to the speech real time, and it was like
Hmm.
kind of it was breaking out, and I was in the hospital too, so I was in and out of
Oh yeah.
listening to it. But yeah, at that part, I thought I heard her say 150 something, and then I saw the transcript later and saw that she did say that.
Interesting.
But yeah, I thought
Yeah,
so.
people keep saying she's not gonna do the she's not gonna do rep, and she's not gonna do debut this year. It's gonna be next year and follow the pattern of the one new album, two re-records, one new album. And it's like, no, stop it. No.
Yeah,
Like literally
absolutely shut
waiting.
your faces. So like
Right.
if she doesn't give us debut and reputation this year, we're getting karma. That's my trade-off. We either are
Absolutely.
getting karma this year, which
Hmm.
will kind of because I do think her giving us karma will push off our hunger because so you have to think about this. We're so used to the
Being
re-records at this point and getting
yeah.
two albums a year. When she takes that away, what's gonna happen? Like it's gonna be a frenzy
Yeah.
of
We're gonna be
hungry
starving.
Swifties. We're gonna be
Right.
starving. And she's gonna go back to a regularly recorded schedule, So I feel like Karma maybe gives her some kind of buffer to that at some point. I don't know where it fits in. This is why Karma Clownin is my uh
There we go.
username screen name
Well,
today.
also, okay, so like Karma's the Lost album, and when she was with Calvin, then she wrote "This is what you came for," but like at first it was under like a ghostwriter name, but Calvin did say that he did the writing pretty much and like kind of just credited her. And so it's interesting that she sang it as a surprise song mashup a few nights ago, and people's bands turn green for Reputation because
Oh, or
they always
debut.
turn whatever color the album is from. So maybe This Is What You Came For is going to be re-recorded and on Rep as a vault track.
Oh, okay. Or though green is also a debut color. So
True,
there's two
that's
different
right.
greens on or no, I think the wristbands show the same green for both debut and reputation, if I'm remembering correctly.
Mhm.
Or it's like a slightly different green. and it's hard to
Yeah,
tell unless you see them like back to back. I can't remember
for
what.
sure. I do wonder, actually, that just brings me to the point as debut is nowhere, and except for a surprise song or two, right? But why isn't it
True.
a part of the Eras tour? Like,
Yeah.
what's the reason? What is the reason?
Yeah, and I've always thought that too, because like debut is what pulled me into the Swiftyverse back in I want to say it was 20 no, I said 20, it was 2002, I think.
Dang.
When did debut come out? No, no,
I
no,
first
that's
heard
not
it in
right.
2007.
2006.
Okay.
2006, because I graduated 2008, and I think it was 2 years before I graduated, so I think 2006. Let me see.
Gotcha. Yeah, I heard it in 2007, and my friend's car, she's like, "Have you ever heard of Taylor Swift?" I'm like, "No." She's like, "Oh my gosh, you have to listen to this song." And it was Teardrops on My Guitar. I was like, "Oh, this is so good."
Yes, that was one of the, it was Teardrops on My Guitar and Our Song, I think, that
Hmm.
that pulled me in.
But yeah, it's suspiciously missing.
Yeah, it really is. And also like there are no Easter eggs for debut either. Which like I
Hmm.
keep saying like people aren't like that excited about debut, so maybe that's why, but I feel like we're not that excited because we're not getting I wasn't even that excited about Reputation until all these Easter eggs kept coming out, and then I was like, well, now I'm gonna watch the Reputation Stadium tour, and I watched it, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh,
This is
this is so much better
amazing.
than I realized. And
Right.
then
Oh
I
my
listened
God.
to the album a few times more, and I'm like, oh my God, all of these songs are killer. And I wasn't
Yeah.
into them the first time around. And then
Yeah.
all the hype over Reputation got me back into them, and I'm like, oh my God, these are so good. But yeah, where are the Easter eggs at all for debut? At all.
Yeah.
Like, where's the hype? Where's anything? And like, I can understand maybe the fans just have picked one or the other, but like, where's the hype from Taylor Nation? Or the
Yeah.
Eras Tour? Like, there's nothing for, that's a good point. There's nothing for debut.
I really do think that we're all gonna just fall in love with it though. And like, I think it's gonna be
Hmm.
so good.
I think it'll be really interesting what the vault tracks on that are,
Yeah,
because I don't even
for
know what to
sure.
expect. I
Right.
And it might be fun and light and just like happy, which would be
Yeah.
nice.
Happy,
Um,
right. We're in a
Maybe.
tortured poets era, so
Yeah,
we're down bad.
which
Yep, that's all for now, and exit to the right, and
so long, London.